All right, guys, welcome to the 11th edition of Next is Now, a future of farming podcast. I'm your host, Brian Brunson with GFL Ag, and my co-host, Dan Aberhart from Aberhart Ag Solutions.
Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Brian, what we do now, it has such a big impact on what happens next for the future of farming. That's why on this show we say, next is now.
I was waiting for the musical cues. Come on, man. Come on.
Oh, I've got a ditty you're going to love with the theme of today.
Well, Dan, we'll continue to discuss and debate topics that make a difference to farmers' operations. Now, I'll be asking the questions because I really don't know all the ins and outs. I'm learning with every one of these podcasts. But it's my job at GFL Ag to try to understand what's happening out there and kind of relate that back to you guys and help you produce better, hopefully, with our solutions.
Well, it's always fun to talk to somebody who's got a perspective outside of agriculture, but I dare say you're going to be an expert in today's topic, Brian. Prove me wrong.
Really? Well,
juicy.
Today, Dan and I are curious about the topic of loving soil this Valentine's Day. See what we did there? So, Dan, what's going to be on the show today?
Well, we want to love, respect, honor, cherish our soil in many different ways. We're going to be talking about how biosol is actually like a long-term relationship. We're going to be talking about the wonderful blog that has been produced to go with this content that describes us. And I want to pick your brain on romance a little bit as well, Brian, if we could, because you're a veritable expert in the subject. Let's be real.
This is known, yes.
This is known far and wide.
Yeah.
And we were just at Manitoba Ag Days, so I pinned down a few folk to give us their thoughts on it. And it really is, I think, loving the soil is a lot about soil health, keeping it healthy. What can we do? What are the 5 love languages as it applies to the soil? I'm just making stuff up language. Now.
I think that phrase has crossed every man's books or their wives' lips at some point. Girlfriends, they've heard that love language thrown out at them. I'm pretty sure.
They've all heard it from me. They're all very familiar with what my love language is, Brian.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we can get into that.
Acts of service. Acts of, what are we talking about here?
Well, let's get into it. But yeah, we'll also be talking about Ask the Check Writer in the community future. I'm really excited about this event. It's really evolving into something amazing. I wanted to touch on that a little bit more, even though this Convergence Conference is coming up so fast and our schedule is so jam-packed, but we could talk about that. So lots to talk about today, Brian. I'm really looking forward to it on the Next Is Now podcast.
All right, man. Well, that sounds like a packed show. So if you're passionate about agriculture and want to stay ahead of the curve, then tune in to Next Is Now and get ready for some thought-provoking discussion, unbiased opinions, and a deep dive into the future of farming.
Love is in the air. You can feel it everywhere.
I love that. That takes me back to some 80s sitcoms. I thought we were about
the Love Boat.
Soon will be.
Whatever you do on the Love Boat. Well, I don't know. I mean, can you still say it in 2023 what they were doing on the Love Boat in the 80s?
Well, let's see if I can remember the ditty. Soon we'll be sailing for love again? Is that in that how I go?
The Love Boat. Right. Soon we'll be making another run. The Love Boat promises something for everyone. So, of course, for adventure, your mind on a new romance.
It's like a poet wrote that. That should be immortalized. It's just words to live by. Well, let's chat about Valentine's Day.
Let's chat about Valentine's Day because all men love this day. It's a day to really celebrate your significant other. You're looking forward to it. You've made plans. You've considered, option A, B, and C. I wanted to ask you, Brian, what do you think has been your biggest success on Valentine's Day in your LTR?
Well, the older we get, it's kind of it's the smaller things, that I think my wife appreciates. we have a couple of traditions. Like there's this one restaurant we go to every Valentine's Day.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's one of those situations too where it kind of works out because we've had the same waiter for like the last 12 years. He's like a professional waiter. This is a really nice, establishment. We walk in, they know our orders, everything. We catch up on kids, life, all that stuff. So it's a good Valentine's Day tradition. But every few years, I like to try to surprise. Last time we took a trip to Mexico. So it's you have some traditions, but you got to spice it up every now and then just to do something that you haven't done before, a little outside of the box. Because my love language is acts of service. Just saying.
Brian, will you be having the fillet of fish again this year?
Yes, Garcon, Mr. McDonald's. Dude, I'm a steak guy. Every time, fillet, medium rare. Delicious.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, man.
So you've done the odd trip. You have a favorite restaurant. Sounds romantic. Yeah.
What about you?
I was thinking I've actually been to Paris in February.
You went.
And I am going back to France, but I don't know how much romance will be involved because I'm going with T-Mac Agro. So there will be farmers there, and I think we're going to go in March, not February, but France is still always kind of romantic. But I was thinking of one special occasion where I really went over the top. And on the internet, you can do a lot of incredible things. So I gathered all the interesting details of my relationship at the time. And I purchased a little package where someone turned it into a ditty. And so I got her into the truck in our traditional way. I opened the door, Brian, and, helped her in, buckled the seatbelt, gave her a little kiss, said, I love you, got into the truck. And turned on the radio, and on came this song, this epic song about how we met and all the little funny things about our relationships. And there was a few little salacious details that, got to keep it somewhat PG-13 because the kids are gonna hear it.
Right.
And it was. I really.
That sounds pretty awesome. How did that go over?
It went over great. I mean, we're not together anymore, but.
Did that breakup occur right after the ditty got finished?
Death by 1,000 cuts. But no, that was a highlight. That was fun, and
that sounds pretty cool.
It's fun. It's great. But I got thinking about Valentine's Day in the context of what we do here for a living at GFL Ag, and really Biosol Plus. We can relate it to a fantastic long-term relationship where. I think with a lot of fertilizers, we're used to that short-term honeymoon phase. I mean, you put it on, it's all immediately available, and it's highly leachable. It can go away at any time. I think Biosol is a little bit more of an upfront investment, but it is the longest-lasting fertilizer that we know of globally to date. A lot of our folks are putting on 5-year applications or beyond.
Nice, yeah.
Depending on, obviously there's a lot of variables in romance. But, talk about loving and cherishing, respecting, upholding your vows, the commitment on a long-term relationship. I mean, Biosol is the ultimate in fertilizer.
Yeah.
Because it's a gift that keeps on giving. You put it on it's just like you get married once. And of course, you got to renew your vows every, 3 to 5 years.
There you go. It's just like I said, we do about every 3 years. I throw a little curveball in there to spice it up, but it's a solid 3 years of lovely Valentines in a row, and it's reliable, kind of like Biosol. It's there. It's wonderful.
Yeah, you don't have to do it every year.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it every year. And, it's funny when I was asking folks at the trade show, which we'll hear shortly, a lot of the sentiment when you ask people, how do you love your soil? A lot of it's around soil health. And I guess we could also include the fact that we're not just loving the soil, but we're loving the environment. We're loving our society.
Yeah.
We're reconstituting, reusing nutrients, things that have very little or no or perhaps a net negative value. And we're getting them out on farmers' fields. And, we've got this flexibility of application, which I think would resemble in a long-term relationship. You've got to be willing to sort of compromise and be flexible, get it done when it needs to be done. But I can really see how folks would relate our product to a long-term relationship and all the healthy elements of that.
Yeah.
I have no idea how I'm going to tie in like love languages with this, but I think if I keep going, I'm going to get there.
You'll figure it out. It's funny. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but speaking of long term and things like that, GFL Ag, GFL stands for Green for Life. So we have that commitment to a greener future for life. So you can kind of say that with your love of your life, Valentine's, you make that commitment there. And,
till death do we part.
I hope my wife's listening. We're green for life, baby.
I think I might, weave that somehow into the vows of my third marriage, green.
There you go.
For life, green for life.
I think that, well, actually you should write a song. With all the details of your relationship. I think I might. Yeah, that actually goes a really long way. A little bit of finger picking and crooning and campfire songs. I'm telling you. Because you don't know this, but Dan is a musician. One day he is going to regale us with.
I should have brought my guitar for the Love Boat theme.
You should have. That would have been perfect. And a little. But
there is a really fun science around love languages, Brian. Do you care to share yours with the audience? You've sussed this out, you and your wife.
She read the book and she gave me that. Now I can't even remember all the categories. The only thing I can remember is I know that mine is acts of service. I like to do things for her, and buying the flowers, taking her on trips, things like that. So
that's your love language to give,
yeah.
But what's yours to receive? Like what?
That's what's like. I need you to go over.
I can run this down. I'm and then
this
is a huge area of expertise for me.
Okay.
So we've got touch, acts of service, quality time, gifts.
I thought gifts was part of the acts of service. No, that's
no.
Okay.
No. And then there's the last one. I just had it. It is love, touch, acts of service, quality time, gifts, and words of affirmation.
Okay, yeah.
Because I am touch and I am words of affirmation. I don't know which one more, but it's interesting too because, and this might relate to the soil too, where when we talk about balance and providing the right inputs, especially I think as we go into a little bit more challenging time, the last couple of years in farming, you could throw a dart at the wall and make some money. Yeah. Not to diminish what everybody does there, in terms of hard work out in the agricultural community, but margins have been incredible. I mean, everybody will admit, we just came from Manitoba Ag Days. Like, it has been awesome. One of the best times ever in history to farm. But I think we're going into some more challenging times in terms of gross margins and all that. So knowing where to put your input. So if you understand your soil's love language, for example, we could relate it to sulfur. Sulfur is synergistic in the soil. Sulfur helps release all the other nutrients. All crops need sulfur. Sulfur helps with proteins and amino acids and helps with yield and helps fight off disease. And, we could relate it to, are we speaking our soil's love language? I knew I was going to get there, Brian. I just needed a little bit more time.
There it is.
But, right?
Yeah.
We need to speak the soil's love language, and sometimes we can end up in frustration in our love languages if we're applying the wrong fertility, if you will, or too much of this and not enough of that. So it's great that you know what you like to give, but what does your wife like to receive? I think maybe you should text her.
Well, now when you say it, hers is words of affirmation. Probably the biggest of all, with a little bit of acts of service in there. But the funny thing is, like, my wife does not take compliments well. Like, it drives me crazy. Like I said, oh, you look great today. She's like, oh my God, my grays are showing and blah, 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 and this and that. I'm like, can you just say thank you, please? I mean, I think you look great. And then finally she goes, okay, yeah. So I think that's really, you got to, I think. And make her believe it, you know?
So I'm not sure if this episode is going to come out before or after Valentine's Day, but can you share with the audience your plans for Valentine's 2024?
Well, actually, we will be in the most romantic city on the planet, as everybody knows, Las Vegas.
Uh-oh. Nice.
Well, my wife has her own business, so and she has a trade show, and I go to it with her. So we'll be in Vegas for that. And that's always, not always, but the last 4 years, it's been around Valentine's Day. So we have a lot of fun in Vegas on Valentine's Day. We do a little gambling. We pick a really nice restaurant. We drink some nice wine, and we stay out a little bit later than we usually do when we're home. So that's the plan this year.
That sounds like fun. I wonder if I should just join you folks this year.
Yeah, come on through, man. You won't be a third wheel at all.
Perfect. I don't think so.
Yeah, come on. We welcome
my classical guitar.
The
Love Boat. Who's this guy? Oh, we do a podcast together.
Oh yeah, she knows the Danimal.
Oh yeah. Well, I am well renowned in many circles, but I'm looking at the calendar thinking I don't have a single spare second in my life, given trade shows, conferences, all kinds of crazy stuff. Trips to Minot, Alberta, Regina, Elkhorn. It's just
you need to
really
make time,
wild
sir.
Schedule. I'm thinking that I don't have any time to date until that week. And I might just take a few days off to update my Tinder profile. I was thinking, when can I start dating in 24? And
let's
that would be
pull up the stats on Tinder Tinder activity on February 14th. Is there a mad frenzy? Is it a mad left-right swiping frenzy going on?
There's a big spike in SEO. Well, it has been an incredibly cold scenario here. Like, we had Chinook-like conditions before the new year. It was almost a little bit alarming. And the alarmists were hitting the alarm, of course, in terms of climate change and warmest seasons on records. Although I can't help but wonder if it isn't the Gleisberg cycle, as Robert Angelic recently described on a podcast we did together. I think the sun has a big impact, perchance. So he was intimating that every 90 years the sun acts up a little bit. And if you think back, if we do the subtraction, 90 years ago, when was that, Brian?
That would see. It's 2024. Let me see. This is a little math equations going on right now. That would be 1940. No, 1930.
The 30s.
Yeah, the 30s.
More specifically, the dirty 30s.
Please expound on that.
Well, he was talking about this 90-year cycle, this Gleisberg cycle, and how the sun acts up every 90 years. And the last time that it acted up, of course, we had the dirty 30s, which were significant. So he's studying climate.
Dirty, is that like industrial revolution? Is that what we're talking about there? Or?
You know what? This is really interesting because I just realized you may not have any context on this. The dirty 30s was an unprecedented time in terms of drought, crop production failure. There was they didn't have the love your soil technique of the zero till that we have today and all the modern production enhancements to conserve soil, and a great deal of soil blew away. I mean, if you Google the dirty 30s, a lot of people went hungry, a lot of people went broke, a lot of soil erosion occurred. It was a really interesting time. So is today's drought, in the context of the Gleisberg cycle, just a sun cycle? Or is mankind having a huge impact on the environment such that, we're producing these results? I don't know.
Probably a combination, maybe. I mean, who knows? Has there been distinct research into this Gleisberg cycle? Or is it this guy just saying, this is a coinkydink?
Well, one of the most successful business guys I've ever met on planet Earth. Canada's largest farmland owner. Second, I don't want to voice it because I don't want to put him in that category, but he is second for farmland ownership in North America, only to Bill Gates. I think he might surpass Bill Gates at some point.
Really?
And he's
don't
my
let Bill
friend,
hear you say that.
Brian. He's my friend.
No, don't name drop.
Bill's probably scouring the internet for references to him as his team works.
Bill Gates is my friend. I actually have some of his software in my computer right now.
Oh, well, I pity you. I'm in the Steve Jobs camp.
Oh,
you know all about that.
I pity you.
I'm not a PC guy.
Oh, that's bad. It's too bad.
Well, I think we covered all the romantic connections to the soil, love languages, how biosol's like a long-term relationship. Are we ready?
What you, I guess, are not doing this Valentine's Day or haven't quite figured out yet?
Sitting alone, listening to Lionel Richie.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
That actually sounds fun. Is it me you're looking for?
I'm going to fire up the cassette deck on the boombox.
Taking it back.
In my room and start swiping. Meet somebody in the Whole Foods produce aisle.
That sounds like a really good way, actually.
I'm looking for a healthy partner, so trying to stay out of the chip section, candy bar section. Looking to
Beggars
meet someone
can't be choosers, man.
Don't just farm virtually, folks, and don't just date online.
Yeah.
Like, put your shadow on that soil. Go out and talk to anybody and everybody, and make yourself open to encounters. I think you also have to be a little bit cognizant of what culture you're in. If you're in certain cultures, it's considered rude to accost somebody in the grocery lineup. But in Canada, you're just extroverted in Canada.
All right, man. So what do we got next?
Well, we had a lot of fun talking to folks at the show. And of course, it's really great to go around and accost people and say, hey, do you love to be on camera? Because everyone is just waiting for a chance for me to whip out my iPhone and film them talking about how they love their soil. But we did have some brave souls that, thought of some interesting things about the soil. So as much as I've laid out a brilliant case about soil health and honoring and cherishing and respecting your soil in many different ways, congruent with all of my most excellent relationship experiences, we had some other contributors. So our first is good friend and associate of mine from the industry, incredibly smart person. I would, you have those category of people in your life that you might refer to at cocktail parties as a brainiac.
Yeah.
This is one of them.
Me?
So,
you talking about?
No,
okay.
No, I didn't mean that. I would refer to you at a cocktail party as a friend who's tall.
It's my one defining characteristic. Thank you. My love language is tall. Okay. First of all, I like this guy's name, Steve McQueen. That's a great all-American name, but
takes you back.
We'll let it slide for Canada.
It's a real thing, and he was born that way.
All right.
Well, we always love soil, but I think when we look at it, it becomes what can we do within the soil? And I'm using that tagline, sort of the solution isn't a solution. Plants do not chew and they do not lick. Therefore, everything has to be soluble for them to take it up. The happy part is, once it's in solution, plants can do anything with it. When you're getting interaction between the plant and the soil, we're going to increase root exudates, which will feed more bacteria and microbiology, which will allow them to be more successful, creating a much livelier soil. Thanks.
Actually, it's kind of sad that plants don't lick, now that he said it out loud. But
I think
he does sound extremely smart.
It's a small omission by the creator. Sweetheart, I was thinking I should have made plants lick. I mean, what was I thinking when I made plants? They don't lick. Yeah. They don't chew.
Come on. How are they going to get their nutrients?
He said a lot there, but most of what I heard was chewing and licking somehow.
No, he does sound extremely knowledgeable on the uptake of nutrients by the plant. And
incredible. And their business at Alpine is a great industry partner. A lot of our top biosol dealers are also super strong, successful Alpine dealers. It's a liquid. So he talks about the solution being in the solution. And a lot of it's, if we could make some romantic references here, a lot of it's about being available. If you're all tied up, I mean, we won't go there with anything in regards to being tied up, but we will say being in solution is solution in terms of your relationship, being available to your partner, being present, taking some time. I mean, how many businesses do you got on the go? How many podcasts are you on? How many video games are you currently playing? Books are you reading?
Not enough.
Kids are you driving to school? You got to make time for your wife, Brian. Come on.
She has to get in line behind the kids and video games first, then the kids, then the liquid, spelled LICKQUID, liquid. See what I did there? Never mind.
I'm gonna pray for your marriage.
We're solid, baby, solid as a rock. All right, man.
My good buddy Jake Ayre from Manitoba. He is a farmer, and they also provide some inputs. There's a seed retailer. Excellent farmers, friends of mine. I sold him a John Deere sprayer back in the day. And Jake's pretty brave. He's on a number of boards. He's a public speaking aficionado, if that's the correct word. He gave me an interesting quote. Let's hear that now.
I love it so much that every year I am testing and checking it. I'm monitoring the nutrient levels, also getting into variable rate fertility and SWOT or EC mapping.
Okay. Now, did he say at the end SWOT there? Strengths, weaknesses?
Yes. Soil, water.
Oh, okay.
Something, topography.
Gotcha.
That's terrible. I should know that. So, yeah, there's a bunch of folks in the business that put these layers together of different data to really understand the soil and how to best manage it for crop production. A very successful model. It's a franchise model, so as an agronomist, you can plug it into what you're doing. And it's really interesting because I think what I'm taking from that, the word that really stuck out to me was honor. But I think that he's saying you can honor relationships or your soil by having that check-in, by understanding the data. What is the love language here? Are the needs being met? How you doing? How much on a scale from 1 to 10 did that thing I did piss you off?
10. Oh, were you not asking me? You're just making
No, it was like a rhetorical, like I was giving you free marriage advice about what you should do in your marriage.
Gotcha.
Okay. Stick with me there.
Appreciate
if you want to answer that in the context of our relationship, maybe that's functional too.
No, you're right. I'm just in my own world here. Now, when I heard SWOT,
it is about data. It's about data, and then saying, not only am I going to understand where you're at, whether it's the soil or your loved one, I'm going to treat you according to what I find out. I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to variable rate my love for you where it most has the biggest impact. Okay?
Gotcha.
All right.
I'm sure we'll be canceled after this episode, man. We go out swinging. We go out with a blaze of love and glory.
Okay. Reiny from Trinity Bio. God bless him, he thought about this, for a couple days at the show. I think he was one of the first guys that I challenged because he was next door at the booth, and he come out swinging. But I want to after this clip, I'm also going to share with you, a few things that he shared with me too about love and it's going to take us out of this episode. I think it's going to wrap it up in a neat bow. It tugged on my heartstrings. I had the vestiges of tears at the corners of my eyes, Brian.
I can't wait to hear this.
Well, for the last 60, 70 years, we've been throwing fertilizers into the soil simply because we needed to. We got a growing population, and we needed to feed this world. Unfortunately, we've found that it's actually having some negative effects to the soil. So how do I love our soil? We're seeing phenomenal results right now with our products, where we're dropping the saline levels in the soil and dropping the magnesium levels. So it gets you super excited simply because we're actually seeing the soil come alive again. So it works really good with micronutrient companies and fertilizer companies. It's just another beautiful add-on that actually brings that yield back up.
Love is in the air.
Absolutely.
Love it. Love is in the air. No, so kind of walk me through the saline and magnesium aspect of that. I didn't know that was an issue.
So what happens is, in a lot of soils, I think it's really dependent on the water table, movement of water in the soil. You'll see it next to road allowances, for example, where the soil ends up having a lot of salt deposited from drainage that comes up, or the water table comes up. So water translocating through the soil, if your water table is high, it'll deposit salts. And what happens if you have salts in your soil, and there's many different kinds, it's a very complex issue. I'm not an agronomist, but you can have black sodium, salinetic soils, you can have sodicity, you can have salinity. You need a discerning agronomist to understand what you're dealing with and how to treat it, and actually biosol can be a treatment for this. But the interesting thing about it is, if you have this salt over time in the soil, it rubs the little edges and little puzzle-like shapes of soil particles off so they become flat, at which time your soil particles become flat like a pancake, and it does not allow water, it does not allow nutrients, it does not allow air, because the thing to understand about healthy soil structure, which facilitates the growth of plants, is, you need space between the particles for water translocation, for nutrients to move up and down.
So it's almost like a barrier.
Bacteria to live inside of there. It's a huge barrier, and that's where your soil gets flat and white and salty and compacted, and water doesn't move through it, and it further compacts the issue. And that's where you need not only to drain the salts down, but you need some sort of soil amendment. And a lot of their solutions, they have liquid solutions, and Trinity's a relatively new company on the market, but we'll shamelessly plug them for whatever reason, just kind of like we do our own. But I always like to support other folks in the industry, with an abundance mindset. But addressing that is a big deal, because when you have a non-productive area on your field, it will subtract from your net margins in such a way that I know when my brother was still 11,000 acres, they're 19 now, he did all the math, and he came up with the idea that, hey, we shouldn't be farming 11,000. We should be farming 9,000, because 2,000 of our acres has a net negative margin, because we're still putting all these inputs into areas that don't produce. So again, in a romantic relationship, don't be putting resources where you're not getting any return. And furthermore, we've had 60 or 70 years of conventional production with conventional fertility that's got us to where we are. That's great. We've had this marriage convention forever and a day. It's a great institution. But don't just do it because, do it for the right reasons. And if there's new solutions that make your romance or your soil better, let's apply them. How do you like that?
Exactly. Look at that. With the nice bow.
I can tie anything.
Anything,
anything,
Well, on that, you can't get much better than that. So on that note, how about you tell us what's happening closer to home in our community segment?
Well, I'm really excited. We talked about it last episode, the Convergence Conference. We are sold out, and we're actually trying to expand it a little bit because we've had so much demand. So we got to our Dunbar's number, which was 150, and we're heading towards 200. But we've also been formulating a really cool product that's coming up, and there's a little bit of a graphic there that I've included. Ask the Check Writer session. And this is all really about being loving and respectful to our customers, saying, we want to bring some new things to the market. Do we have all of the answers? Are we going to make salacious claims? No. We're going to ease into this. We're going to get to know each other and the products and what it can do for each other. We're going to consistently pause and check in and say, how is this working for you? Can we figure out if this has a use? Does this make sense to you? So we're going to invite a lot of the agronomists that are coming to the Convergence Conference. We're going to handpick a bunch of folks to VIP them to this Ask the Check Writer session in advance of the conference. And we're also inviting our dealer network to take a look at these products, talk with the manufacturers. Elston Solberg's come to talk about some of them. And so most of this is around adding stuff into Biosol to enhance both ingredients to bake a better cake through the use of blendables, additions, upgrades that make sense. And we're going to be working with agronomists to do trials in different areas and on our farm. And one of the relationships, Brian, that make the most sense is the Sheerness mine, which used to ship 3.5 million tons of coal across the road annually to the Sheerness coal plant and produce energy for 50 cents a gigajoule. Now they're transitioning to humulite production. So they produce a really, really excellent screened fine powder product that goes all around the world to get processed into different humic products in different continents, different countries. We're going to take the raw humulite powder and mix it into Biosol. And humulite is known to buffer pH in the soil. It's known to increase moisture holding capacity. It holds 60 times its weight. It's known to foster biological activity. It's known to remediate poor soils like we were discussing. That ties right in very brilliantly. I don't know how I do that, but I do it well.
Yes, you do.
A lot of real true synchronicities here that I love.
No, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And they're 20 minutes from Hannah, where all of the Biosol is produced for Western Canada. So beautiful. We can ship, the concept is we can ship Biosol there. We can blend it with humulite. We can ship it out as a new product. We think there's going to be lots of synergies between the chemistry and the compost and the biology in the compost and the chemistry and the elemental sulfur. We think as a carrier, it'll make a lot more things available, which leads me to my next blendable, which is going to be rock phos from Fertos, which is going to get mined at Fernie, located at Fort St. McLeod. We want to blend it into and phosphorus is a perpetual problem. It's a polluter in production when they make it. It's a challenge to make it available in the soil. It's a challenge to put enough to keep up with removal rates and uptake and all that. So we're going to be offering a different placement in broadcasting and a different source that's got a low carbon footprint, which we know customers around the world are very concerned about, is what is your carbon footprint? How are you producing food? Yada, yada, yada. Which, by the way, we know Saskatchewan, for example, has an almost 70% less carbon footprint producing canola, a ton of canola, than anywhere in the world, other than Russia, because they didn't get that data. But I think it's going to be really cool because I know that Elston's done some research about how compost makes rock phos more available and elemental sulfur makes rock phos more available, but Biosol makes it more available yet, like 4 times as available as usual. So we want to help solve that problem. It's exciting.
It sounds like soil is in for some good loving in 2024. Like Biosol is bringing the thunder. I like it.
Getting frisky.
I like it.
Frisky. Potash
Well,
is another one too, but
yeah.
potash is pretty straightforward. And last but not least, we are bringing an adjuvant to the market that makes virtually everything, every chemical, active ingredient, be it herbicide, fungicide, insecticide, liquid fertilizer, work better in a very low cost, extremely low cost, low volume manner. We could use it with almost anything. And it's a water-based polymer, which is very environmentally friendly, which is right up our alley. So we're going to white label it, and that manufacturer is going to be there as well. So ask the check writer. You can chat with Elston. Folks will get to chat with Westmed Ag. They'll get to chat with Furtos. They will also get to chat with Corbett Scientific. And I think we can have up to 80 in the room. So it's going to be very exciting.
That sounds like a very exciting time. I can't wait to get a little bit more detail on that and then find out how it all turns out.
It'll be good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. On that note, maybe we finish with a few key takeaways from today.
I would like to go on YouTube and search for Love Boat and listen to the theme and regale in the memories of old, but also I'm really excited about not only loving the soil in 2024, but having some new adventures in love, and I think you as well, just in a different context, because it will be with the same person. I don't know who it's going to be
that
yet.
Point is yes, that we need to make.
I haven't narrowed it down yet. That's why it's called dating.
Yes,
but I'm excited, and I'm excited for you and to be with you and your wife on Valentine's in Las Vegas. And
like I said, we like to do something special every now and then, and it'll be really special for us.
Extra special, triple special,
extra
third wheel special.
Yeah.
Guess what, honey?
Got some news for you.
Remember the Danimal?
We got a special guest coming. Oh, man. Well, thanks, everyone, for listening. It's been a great show as usual, Danimal. I hope you enjoyed Next Is Now. I'm Brian Brunson with Dan Aberhart. And join us next time for a discussion on farming. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed.